the battlefield, you have to use all of your senses in order to stay alive, including listening. So today, we're going to take a look at what you need to listen to, starting with small arms. Small arms have a lot of distinct sounds: incoming, outgoing, the distance they are from you,
go team, let's go!
And a lot of other things, including what weapon systems are shooting at you. But luckily, if you're on the front line, you're probably an infantryman. You've probably been exposed to all these things. So you can distinguish an AK from an M16 from a PKM. So one of the first sounds you'll hear is a faint buzzing sound if it goes over you, if it's below the speed of sound.
Gotcha.
And if you hear a loud crack when it goes over you, you know that it's a reasonable range they can accurately target you from with that rifle. So again, every rifle is going to have its own distinct sound, including machine guns, which you can also tell the rate of fire, which can help you figure out what kind of machine gun is firing at you. Moving on to mortars, they're going to make a deathly whizzing sound when it's right over you, kind of like a kazoo. And the whiz is going to get a lot louder as it approaches your position, which will leave you just about a second to get prone. But the big giveaway for the mortar is not the explosion, it's not the whiz, it is the launching from the tube. And I've made a video about this before on my channel, but you're gonna hear them maybe even 10 seconds before it actually lands on you, the launching of the projectile from the mortar tube. And it depends on what caliber it is, it depends on how far away it is, but this is what you want to listen to in order to keep yourself alive. And just like the machine guns, you can also figure out the rate of fire. How many rounds are coming out of your position within that 10-second period? You're gonna hear a couple of them if it's a barrage and you know, okay, this is serious, I'm gonna get down to a shelter. And you're gonna hear just one if they're still bracketing you. This is the majority of the incoming that are in combat videos, including mine. Mortars are a lot more frequent than artillery or tanks. And speaking of tanks, you don't have a lot of time to react. It is a direct fire weapon, so you're gonna hear the launching of the shell, but less than a second later, you're gonna hear that boom on your position. Now, the shell is still gonna have that whistling sound that mortars make, but it's gonna be a little bit different of a sound.
Dismount. Hey, get to cover, right? Let's fucking go.
And again, it's more direct, so you have less time to react, but if you generally know the location of the enemy line and how far away an expected tank is, you can then listen for the launching of the shell, and from there, take cover. If they're being used as indirect, which is honestly a lot of times, you can be a little less cautious, knowing that they're throwing Hail Marys.
Got a blanket of plates on you.
It's still a very large explosion, but you don't have to take it as serious if you know it's just one round every minute. Moving on to BMPs and AGS. You're gonna hear the cannon blast beforehand, depending on the distance, but you're not gonna have much time to take cover. An AGS is gonna do that whistling sound, a very high-pitched one, whereas a BMP isn't gonna have that whistling sound so much. Overall, both these systems are one of the scariest ones you're gonna encounter.
Push again. Go! Go!
The cannon and exploding sounds intermingle close after they started their burst.
Push again.
And as soon as you take cover, you have to lay where you are and treat it as if it's explosive fire, because it is, which makes it especially effective for fire superiority, because they know as soon as they fire a burst, infantry have to lay down. It depends on how long the burst is going to be. Maybe it's 10 seconds long, maybe it's 1 minute long, because they have a long belt in that thing. The next one to listen to is artillery. It's gonna have that same whizzing sound that mortars make, but it's gonna be more of a big whoosh as it approaches. And you can automatically tell that it's something more serious incoming. A lot of times I just stand there and try and chase that whooshing sound as it's going over me.
Hold on. Next one.
You see this huge explosion in the distance and you know, okay, it kind of just puts you in awe of how big this explosion is. So if it goes above you, it's gonna sound like a kazoo, just like the mortar, a lower frequency though. And you can hear the cannon blast sometimes, but usually not. Again, artillery systems are 30 kilometers away, so it's gonna be kind of difficult. Sometimes you will be able to hear it though.
Hey, stay down.
Now we're gonna move on to aerial threats such as jets. You're gonna hear when a jet is above you dropping a bomb. They're normally gonna dive in for an attack or change altitude or change their engine noise or just something is different with the jet. And my experience with jets mostly comes from Iraq where I encountered this. And it just sounds different. I'm not a pilot. I don't know exactly what they're doing and why, but something is different when they're approaching you for an actual bombing run. Normally in Ukraine, you're going to be hearing the glide bombs rather than a jet directly over your position. And these bombs are incredibly powerful. As soon as it approaches you, you're going to know this is not artillery. It's something more serious. So if you're in a building and this bomb explodes 500 meters away, the drapes next to your window are going to fly up to the ceiling just from the shockwave. These are serious. Just like artillery, it's something to behold. It puts you in awe.
Yeah, man, those are warplanes. They're bombing.
But to be honest, there's not much you could do, even if you hear the bomb, other than just hope that it's not coming towards you. Sound indicators aren't very effective, although I'm sure that you would hear a bomb before it reached you. But I think in most cases you're toast. When it comes to drones, there's a lot of different types. We're gonna talk about FPVs first. FPVs are easy to hear. It's a distinct electric buzzing sound from these motors that they're powering the aircraft with. And when they're coming at you, you barely have enough time to dodge them, maybe a second or two. And if they go past you, it's still difficult to get eyes on it. But overall, if you hear that buzzing sound get louder, you need to seek shelter. As soon as you hear it not getting louder and it starts to get like a little bit more faint, you know it's not coming at you. That's the big giveaway. They're extremely fast, which makes it a lot harder to dodge rather than a Mavic. But a good thing about that is you will know when a Mavic is approaching you rather than FPV, because they have a very distinguished noise. Usually because they aren't moving as fast, and their sound is a lot more solid. It's not gonna be as high frequency. And each of these drones you're gonna hear at different heights. So in a perfect environment, when I was back home, no battlefield noises, I set up my Mavic 2 and I tried to hear at what altitude I couldn't hear it anymore. And the very limit for it was almost 400 meters, which is a big deal. It's something just to keep in mind. It's not gonna be perfect conditions, but at 400 meters up, you're not gonna be dropping explosives on people. If it's down at the level where it's trying to drop a VOG on you or a grenade, you're usually gonna be able to hear it. The next aerial threat is helicopters. And the good thing about helicopters is they are extremely loud. You're gonna hear them from 5 kilometers away, which is just about the distance that they can even engage with any other weapon systems, including a gun, rockets, or a wire-guided missile. The sound of their gun, which isn't very frequent, sounds a lot like a BMP, but a higher rate of fire. The rockets sound like Grad, which we're gonna get into. And their wire-guided missiles sound like any sort of rocket or missile, including RPGs. So the big thing is, if you hear a helicopter, seek shelter, tell a Stinger gunner, and just go from there.
Here, Johnny.
Well, hear a little bit of a helicopter just on the other side of the tree line.
They're very loud. You can hear them way before that they would actually engage you. Moving on to Grad Rockets, my favorites. All right, so Grad is terrifying, and you're gonna be able to hear the launching of the Grad missiles, a lot like Mortars, well before they actually reach your position, maybe even 10 seconds before. You're gonna hear in a rate of fire, it's gonna be a rhythmic boom, 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 10 or 20 of them, and then you'll know that you need to seek shelter. The first thing after those booms that you're gonna hear is this whoosh. It's gonna be a couple whooshes that get extremely loud, and then they intermingle into a couple then that you can hear.
Is that Grad?
And then they start exploding around you. It's a very large explosion, it's very loud, it's gonna shake the buildings you're in very violently, and pretty much as soon as they start firing at you, it is total fire superiority over you. But as the bombs are exploding, you're usually just gonna focus on the whooshing sound because it's that loud. You're gonna hear the whooshes over the explosion sometimes. So in general, it's scary, it's a long barrage, maybe even 20 seconds long, but you're gonna know when the barrage is done because the whooshes stop. The next one is fire superiority. What does fire superiority sound like? Well, it pretty much sounds like a barrage. It sounds like a bunch of Grad missiles coming at you, a lot of artillery rounds, whatever it is. And there's points under a barrage that you have no choice but to lay down. And that is what fire superiority is. It constantly occurs on the front line where there's moments of total fire superiority over you, where you have to lay down for a couple seconds or a minute or two and stop what you're doing. Your work stops until these explosions stop around you. Being able to recognize what's targeting you, their capabilities, and when to take cover again can allow you to get up and get back to work despite the fear of that incoming again. Most importantly, you're gonna not panic as much. As soon as those rounds go off, you know when the next ones are coming. You know what is targeting you. You have better understanding of the battlefield, and you can continue your work and the mission, which is the sole reason you are out there in the first place. So, thanks for listening. I hope you learned something. Before I let you guys go, I want to say a big thank you to the members, everybody who's donated. We've been able to help a lot of people, especially this last month. a lot of my friends, and I just want to say a big thank you. That's about that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.